Hello, welcome to our webinar. We're just waiting for everyone to join, and we'll start at about 3 and 2 minutes Central Europe time. Depends on where you join from. And speaking of, if you'd like to tell us where you're joining from, please feel free to use the chat. And also, in the meantime, please use the reactions buttons at the bottom of the screen to let us know if you hear me all right so far. Okay, great. I see a few reactions. Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmations. Hi, everyone. Great. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for the confirmation. Okay, we have people joining from Germany already. Great. Welcome. I see there is a big interest in migrating from Atlassian to more open source solutions nowadays from Germany. Germany is also a strong market with an initiative that Robin will present later to say a bit of a teaser. It looks like people are organizing to switch to open source more and more.
And we also see people joining from Austria. I see Vienna in the chat as well. Welcome, everyone.
Great. Just 2 more minutes and we'll start. Okay, also Vienna. More people from Germany. Great. So we see indeed even here that the interest that we feel towards open source is represented by the participants today from Germany. We have people from Belgium. Welcome. There's already a question. Yes, great. There's a question if we have a German presentation. Not live right now, but we are curious to know where people are joining from so that we know what languages to localize content in the future. So if we know that there's interest in this in content in German, we can work on that, and we can translate the conclusions of this webinar in German. Okay, just 1 more minute and we'll start. Okay, we have 120 people connected. Perfect. And Czech Republic and Sri Lanka, great. So many countries. Okay, and people from France. Great, hello.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, and across the ocean from the US. Great. Okay, I think we're ready to start. So officially, hi everyone, welcome to our webinar. I'm Stefana, I'm a product owner at XWiki working on applications, cloud, and Confluence tools. And I'm honored to be here today with Robin, CEO at OpenProject.
Hello, everyone.
So first, we'll talk about a few housekeeping rules and kind of how to use the platform. We are today using Nextcloud Talk, and we take this opportunity to thank them for hosting us. You will see that there's a chat on the top right that you can use to post questions. And also, we would kindly ask you to click on the details button at the top right and scroll to the sound section and disable sound notifications for people going in and out of the room if so that you won't be disturbed by that sound. It should be off by default, but please check this. Please keep your microphone on mute. Again, if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat. My colleagues will gather the questions as we speak, so you can post any question while the webinar is happening, and we will address the questions at the end. If you have any issues with audio or connection, please refresh the page, and kindly note that this webinar will be recorded. And again, you will receive the recording and all the materials afterwards on email. All right, now that that is out of the way, today we'll talk about first why we do this webinar, why this matters. Then we'll have a presentation from Robin for OpenProject so that we learn more about their great tool. I will tell you a few words about XWiki, both the company and the product. I will show you the existing integration and the plans for the future for the integration between XWiki and OpenProject. We'll have the live Q&A that I promised previously, and we'll tell you what are the next steps that you can take to migrate away from Atlassian. First, why we do this. So as most of you probably know, Atlassian recently announced that they will discontinue the Atlassian Data Center version. This comes after a few years ago, in end of 2020, they also announced that they will discontinue the server version that a lot of organizations were using to keep their data on an environment that they handled. Now, some people that were using server and had to continue having some ownership on their data, or at least on some choice on the location where their data is being held, moved to Atlassian Data Center. But now this is also coming to an end. In 2029, the data center will be completely discontinued. What this means and why you will probably need to take action quickly is you will probably have to move to Confluence Cloud. And if you want to continue being in a system where you can control your data, have real digital sovereignty, probably be able to continue being compliant with regulations that apply to your country or your domain, continue having control on your data, and maybe more cost predictability, you will probably be better off switching to an open source product, such as XWiki and OpenProject. Speaking of the urgency on this and what's been happening on the Atlassian side, we made an estimation about the Atlassian data center price increase for 15,000 users in the last 6 years, 5.5. We can see that in 2019, Jira plus Confluence was at about $450,000. Then in 2021, it raised to $735,000. In 2024, it was almost $900,000. And in 2025, it overpassed 1 million, being at about 1,115,000. So this means a 148% price increase, so almost threefold. And according to Atlassian's shareholder letter in the last quarter of 2025, the Q2 of 2025, the data center revenue growth of 32% was driven by price increase, seat expansion in existing customer, and the benefit from prior year server migrations. So this shows us that working with the proprietary software may be a bit dangerous when it comes to vendor lock-in and the price increase that they can enforce upon their users. Now that we have this context, it is my pleasure to invite Robin to tell us about OpenProject.
Thank you very much, Stefana. Let me start with an overview of OpenProject as a Jira alternative. And before we see OpenProject in action, just a little bit of background information. So we have around 2,000 enterprise customers working with OpenProject. This includes small and medium-sized companies, but also large corporate organizations, as well as public organizations, both on a ministerial level and also a local level. We have a team of around 50 employees, and OpenProject has been downloaded more than 20 million times in the community and enterprise edition. Also, OpenProject was launched in 2011, and OpenProject, of course, covers project management, but also, for example, incident management and the option to collaborate together in general. OpenProject is, of course, fully open source, just as XWiki. There's no data or vendor login, and you're fully free to flexibly customize and adjust OpenProject as needed, both in terms of the look and feel, and also in terms of, for example, using your own data fields that can be used. And OpenProject is available as a cloud-based solution, hosted securely in an EU-based cloud, but also as a self-hosted on-prem solution. And being open source, OpenProject is supported by an active open source community that constantly provides feedback and input and also helps develop OpenProject. And OpenProject itself can be used to manage the entire project lifecycle, starting at the very beginning, initiating a project, planning a project, and of course, executing a project, all the way to finishing and closing the project. And as part of that, you can use OpenProject for traditional project management using Gantt charts, for example, to schedule and plan your projects, but also agile methodologies such as Kanban, for example, and also Scrum are being supported. And if you're using OpenProject for software development projects, you can, for example, use the product development capabilities, for example, roadmap planning, that are supported as well. And also in terms of customization, you can customize your own workflows and set up OpenProject based on your own preferences. And on a higher tier level, it's also possible not just to work in individual projects, but also to use OpenProject for portfolio management and, for example, get an overview of multiple projects and their respective status at once. And rather than me describing to you what OpenProject can do, let's take a look at a specific example. So here we are inside of an OpenProject environment. And if you've been using Jira before, some of the navigation may look familiar. You're able to sign in with your user account, and you can, for instance, first of all, sign in with single sign-on or use username and password along with, for example, two-factor authentication. As a starting point, each user has their own My page, which is their own standard landing page that they can customize. And here you can get an overview of the tasks that are scheduled for the current week and, for example, important phases or milestones. You can also see relevant meetings which have been scheduled that are relevant when you are coordinating within a project. In addition to that, you have an overview of the various tasks assigned to you across multiple projects, and you can see right away, for example, which tasks are assigned to you and when they are due. Now, speaking of working in projects, we can, of course, go ahead and start out by creating a new project. When we create a new project, we're either able to use a template as a starting point, or of course, you can also start from scratch. And in terms of the projects themselves, we can, of course, create projects, also decide what the project hierarchy should be. So if a project, for example, a sub-project, and we can navigate to those projects. And as a specific project example, let's see how we can use OpenProject to plan the migration from Confluence and Jira over to XWiki and OpenProject. So as we head over to this project, we can see right away key information about the project, such as the project description, for example, which typically includes a description of the objective of the project and key information and important KPIs. You can also communicate, for example, the project status, whether our project is on track or if there's a delay. And we can also add a description on the status to explain in more detail what the specific status is. And of course, you can invite other users to participate inside of the project, so all the key stakeholders can be invited to join us in our project. And as part of that, you can invite internal stakeholders, but also external members could be invited as well. And you can, of course, get an overview of the project on a high level. You can include graphs that can be used to see, for instance, an overview of the issues or tasks inside of the project and see the respective status. So, for example, which tasks are still in status new and need to be worked on, which ones are already scheduled, and which ones are currently in progress. And of course, this can be fully customized. And before we actually plan out our project and take a look at how we can schedule and plan individual steps needed for the migration, just a brief note, is structured in a modular. Always decide on a project by project basis which kind of functionalities you would like to use in the current project. And that means you have the full control if you want to rather focus on more traditional project management aspects, such as working with a Gantt chart, or if you'd rather focus more on agile aspects, such as working with the Kanban board, for example, or the Scrum functionality OpenProject. And of course, you can also combine both approaches to work in a hybrid way. Now, inside of our project, we can go ahead and we can take a look at our project outline. So we can see the different phases that we scheduled, the relevant milestones inside of our project, and of course, we can schedule them directly in the Gantt chart. You can always zoom in and out to take a look at, for example, individual days, weeks, or months to get an overview of your project outline. And of course, we can break down phases into subtasks and schedule them individually and also create dependencies between different tasks. Now, as we start working on those tasks, we can go ahead and directly update the status. Of course, the status options and the workflow in general is fully customizable, so you can really customize it based on your own preferences. And if you want to know information about any of those tasks, for instance, you always have the option to open the details view, and this gives you an overview of details such as the description that can be added, the assignee, so the person currently working on this, and we can also see the activity panel that gives us more information about what changes and updates have been performed on those tasks. Now, of course, when we are working on a project, there may be some changes to our project schedule. In order to keep track of what has changed inside of our project, we can always activate a baseline comparison. And the baseline comparison gives us an overview of all the changes that have happened to our project schedule since the beginning of the project. And we can see, for instance, if there has been an update made to the dates, for example, if we had a postponement in one of the tasks or phases, and also updates regarding the status. And this way, you always have an overview of the relevant information in your project. You can plan out your project and see all the changes that happened. Now, if you want to see the individual tasks and steps inside of our project that we want to take, then we can head over to the work packages list or issue list. And here again, we have a list of the various tasks, phases, and milestones, and can also apply filter to narrow this down into the most important information. So for instance, I can apply a filter here and take a look at all the tasks assigned to me personally. You can also create quick filters, which we add to the side menu in order to quickly get an overview of, for example, all the tasks assigned to me as a user. And from here, you can also create new tasks if you want to. So we can go ahead and create a new task. For example, at the end of our migration, we want to maybe test the data migration. So we can add that as a task, set the assignee as well as additional information, such as a priority, and then create this new task. And these tasks will be displayed in the list view here. And of course, we can also schedule it, for instance, in our Gantt chart. Now, as we start working on a task, we can update the status as we saw before. And we are also able to communicate with other project members. There's an activity panel here, and we can other team members using the @ sign, and for example, ask them to provide feedback or to collaborate with us on a specific task. This will be either email or directly through OpenProject's notification center. The notification center gives a view of all the updates that have happened in our projects relating to, for example, the relevant tasks. And here you have your own inbox where you can see all the updates and also the reason why you have been notified. For example, because you have been mentioned on a specific message or because of automated date alerts when a task, for example, is about to start or is due soon. And here in this case, we can head over to the mentioned section. And we can see that our team member, John, actually wrote us a message here and asked to give us an update. So here we can reply back to him. And this will send directly a notification to John. Now back to our project. If we want to work in a more agile way, we can always head over to the board view. And here we have access to the Kanban board in OpenProject. And the same data that we saw previously in the Gantt chart can also be displayed in the Gantt chart, in the Kanban board, grouped by the respective status. So we see all the tasks that are still in status new, and we can see who is currently assigned to those. And we could simply drag and drop that over to the respective new status, for example, in progress. And this will update the status automatically We can always open the details view to see more information, including the description, and thereby we have a very easy way to see all of our tasks on a Kanban board and update them accordingly. And if instead we want to see who's currently working on what, we can open the assignee board. And here we see all of the tasks assigned to individual team members, as well as those tasks not assigned yet. So we can take those unassigned tasks and assign them to one of our team members, which will change the assignment in the background. And of course, we could switch back to the Kanban board view in order to then update the process and update the status accordingly. We also have the option to see what our team is working on by heading over to the team planner. And the team planner gives us an overview of what our team is working on. So on the left side here, we can see our colleagues again inside of our project, and we can see the current week and which tasks are scheduled in the current week. So we see that both Jane and John have different tasks that they're working on, which started yesterday and are due on December 1st. From here, we could also add additional tasks to other team members and also get a longer term perspective, for example, a 2-week perspective, to see which tasks are scheduled in that time frame. So using either the Kanban board view or the team planner perspective, we can always see what our team is working on, and we can switch between a more agile view or a more traditional view. Now, if you want to use OpenProject to work in a development context, we can also head over to a separate project, the Scrum project here, and we have a dedicated Scrum view called the Backlogs view. Here you have the option to add user stories to the product backlog or to a bug backlog, provide an estimate in story points, and assign them to the respective sprints. And then, of course, we can go ahead and open the task board view for the respective sprint, break the sprint down into different subtasks, and then the team members can collaborate and work together to finish those tasks, and ultimately, of course, also the user stories. And also, if you want to get an overview of the various versions, so for example, the user stories assigned to a specific product backlog or to different sprints, we can head back to the boards view again, and here we can see our different versions, such as a product backlog and our sprint 1 and 2, and we can assign user stories to the respective version here. So this also gives us an easy way to basically assign our user stories to the different sprints. Now heading back to our migration project, we may also want to coordinate with our team while working on the project. And for doing this, we can use the integrated meeting module in OpenProject. We can, for example, set up a weekly meeting series where we collect important topics to discuss. We can include tasks or phases, for example, that we want to talk about and add them here to the agenda. We can also embed views such as, for example, an overview of the main phases inside of our project. And then when starting the meeting, we can, of course, update the status of the meeting and document any relevant outcomes. So we can use those approaches either working in a traditional way or a more agile way, or of course combining both into a hybrid way of working in order to plan and work on our project. And if we want to zoom out a little bit and we want to take a look at multiple projects at once, OpenProject provides a multi-project list where we can see all the projects that we have access to, and we can see key information such as the project status, as well as, for example, when the latest activity has taken place. And using quick filters, we can then take a look at all the projects in a certain status. And just to see them on a high level, we could head over to the Gantt view. And here we can see exactly those projects in the status, along with key information such as the milestones. So this is typically how we would use OpenProject in order to plan out our project on a project-by-project basis, and at the same time still have a high-level overview across all of our projects. Now, to provide a bit of an outlook, what are the main strategic focus topics we currently focus on? So we're currently working on a migration from Jira over to OpenProject, which will allow, for example, to migrate data such as issues over to work packages and tasks in OpenProject. We're also working on an XWiki integration, more on that in just a moment. And especially relevant for Jira users might be that we are working on topics such as IT service management, which are planned to track incidents and service requests, topics to support test management, for example, as an alternative to X-Ray, and also AI integrations, for example, to automate routine tasks. And to close off with, as a bit of an outlook for the planned XWiki integration, it will be possible to basically link or also create new wiki pages in XWiki from a task or, for example, from an epic in OpenProject. And then you will be able to see right away which XWiki pages have been linked. And of course, from here, it will also be possible to immediately switch over to XWiki to take a closer look at their respective pages. And with that, let me head over to Stefana for an overview of XWiki.
Thank you so much, Robin. Great presentation of OpenProject. So first, before we switch to XWiki, I would like to take a 1-minute break for a bit more housekeeping. So I understand that there are some issues with connections and the sound notifications. So first, so first, about the sound notifications, when you look at the screen on the top right, there is chat, participants, and details. If you click on details and then click on settings, which is the last button in the details section, and then click on sounds, the second section from the left, there is a toggle that you can switch to play sounds when participants join or leave the call. Please put that to false, so to not have participants when, to not have sounds when participants join or leave the call. About the connection, I think we would try to switch the camera off for other, from this point on, in case this will help the quality of the screen sharing. But we, it's a bit difficult to troubleshoot as we don't really reproduce the exact same issues. Okay, so that's the second point. And finally, about the questions, please feel free to continue to ask the questions in the chat. I've seen that there are multiple questions already. Our colleagues are gathering the questions in a shared document, and we will answer from there at the end. Okay. Now we're ready to look at XWiki. So XWiki is a company that's been around for 21 years. We have 75 employees, and the product is being used by both organizations, individuals, but also very large corporations. As we can see in an example here, we have about 8,000 installations and more than 1,000 organizations are using our services. We have clients from very diverse domains, and they range from IT to telecommunications, NGOs, and many more. I'm going to try to disable the. Okay, I'm going to disable the video here. Okay, so a few words about the company first. It was launched in, about the product. It was launched first in 2023. It is a knowledge management software. So in terms of functionalities, you will see that you will recognize in XWiki most of the functionalities that you're using in Confluence. Compared to Confluence, which is proprietary, XWiki is 100% open source, so there is no data lock-in. If you choose to use XWiki, you can move your data wherever you want at any time. It is very flexible and scalable. You can customize it to perfectly fit your needs. And in terms of services, we do offer support for both on-premise installations, if you want to install XWiki in your environments that you manage, or in our cloud system that we have and have perfected over the last 10 years. The cloud system that we use is offered by OVH in France. So even if you use the cloud system, the data will be hosted in Europe. It is, of course, being an open source product supported by a thriving community. We have a very active forum where you can post questions. And strictly regarding Confluence migrations, we have more than 6 years of intensive experience in migrating clients, especially since Confluence has announced that they will discontinue the Confluence server version. We have migrated hundreds and hundreds of organizations to XWiki. And we continue to improve our tools every day. So first, a very quick walk through the features. I won't go too much into details. We have other webinars demonstrating our tools if you want to go a bit in depth. This one is more to give you a quick walkthrough. In terms of editing, we have a very powerful editor with which you can insert content, organize it, display it in ways in which you like so that you can highlight the important parts, navigate the content easily. We have all the editing options that you would expect from an editor. We have quick actions. By inserting a slash, you can search for a macro. And we have ways to do an easy layout creation for your pages. Then I told you just now about the macros. So again, if you use Confluence, you probably know that they also have plenty of macros. Macros are generally used to enhance the display of the content. They can be simple macros such as boxes, colorful boxes, to more complex ones such as details, detail summary, content report, the ones that kind of take parts of content from multiple pages and display it in another one, create reports, and so on. At XWiki, even before trying to accommodate more the people that were coming from Confluence, we did have a lot of macros for everyday usage of XWiki. And since the Confluence migration wave kind of grew, we started investing a bit more in supporting macros that the users of Confluence were used to. So nowadays, most of the Confluence macros are supported or have a similar alternative in XWiki. If you would like to know if the macros that you use in Confluence are supported on the XWiki side, please contact us, share with us your list, and we'll share a full report with you, usually within a day. Or you can check out our website and you will find there a list of the supported macros. But again, the most commonly used 60 to 70 macros from Confluence are fully supported in XWiki. In terms of permissions, this is, of course, a very important feature of any knowledge management system. XWiki has a very granular permission system, even more granular than Confluence. So in XWiki, you can handle the view, comment, edit, delete rights, and even more than that, the right to script, administer, register, and program on XWiki pages. Kind of differently to Confluence, in XWiki, you can manage the rights at the global level, at a sub-wiki level, which I will explain in a second, at a hierarchy level, or even at the page level. The rights can be applied per group or per user. And of course, the rights that you have set up in Confluence can be fully migrated to XWiki automatically. So the migrator that we have, and I will show, does support migration of permissions that you have set up in Confluence to XWiki. In terms of navigation, again, the functionality is quite similar to Confluence's. So we have a default navigation tree on the left of the XWiki instance usually. This navigation tree shows us the pages in the hierarchy that they are part of. And again, if you migrate from Confluence to XWiki, the order that you have for your navigation tree set up in Confluence, in case you kind of reorder the nodes, that order is also kept when you migrate to XWiki. Again, if you have used kind of a custom order compared to the default ones that exist in Confluence. Finally, about sub-wikis, I mentioned this previously. So in Confluence, you have the concept of a site. So there's a Confluence site, and then there are spaces. In XWiki, we have a kind of intermediate concept, to say so, but a better way to organize content. We have sub-wikis. So sub-wikis behave as separate wikis. So they behave kind of as separate XWiki instances, but they're actually part of the same XWiki instance. So this means that if you have multiple teams or multiple departments and you want to separate not only rights, but you also want certain teams to have certain applications. For example, you want the HR team to have the employees database and no other teams should have that. Or you want the sales team to have the CRM application. And again, no other team should have this. You can separate the spaces in subwikis. And you can not only configure the look and feel and applications, but also looks, rights, the look and feel of the subwiki and the rights. So to sum up, in this way, you can separate the content and the extensions and the permissions between teams or departments, but you will still be part of the same XWiki instance. In terms of reaching the content, finding the content, of course, as any great knowledge management system, XWiki has a complex search and filtering system. We have at the top right of an XWiki page a quick search, which searches not only in page titles and content, but also in attachment names and content. So if the word that you searched for or the string is found in an attachment, that is also retrieved by the search. And then you can access the full domain search page and use sort by or filters to further refine your search. Now, looking strictly at the Confluence migration tools. So I told you previously that you can migrate permissions, the order of the tree, the navigation tree, and many more. Now I will give you a very quick walkthrough the Confluence migration tool that we have created over the last years. So the form that you see right here is the form in which the migrator is right now. It went through a few UI changes to make it more easy to use and kind of have a clean interface. So it just has two steps. The first is to make sure that you have the right prerequisites, that you have enough memory allocated to your XWiki instance and enough storage. And then in the second step, you will be able to choose how you will retrieve your data for the migration. So the first way is to upload an export from Confluence. This is especially useful if you are in a cloud XWiki demo, for example, and you just want to make a quick test. You can export your export XML export from Confluence and upload it into XWiki, and you can select that package to run a migration. Alternatively, if you run XWiki on your servers and you want to maybe run larger migrations, you can actually select the Confluence export from your server, and in this way you don't have to upload it anymore in XWiki. XWiki will directly fetch it from your from the directory that you have pointed to. We have seen so far that you can, again, either upload the Confluence export or select it from your server. When I say Confluence export, I mean both space export, but you can also do a backup export, of course, if you have kind of a smaller instance and enough memory and storage on the Confluence side and on the XWiki side to run this migration. But for very large migrations, we have the feature of batch migration. So what this means is that you can export all the spaces from Confluence, organize them in directories on your computer. For example, a department HR would have 9 spaces, so you'll make a directory with the 9 space exports from Confluence. And when you do a batch, you point XWiki to that directory with the 9 spaces, and XWiki automatically creates a migration page for each space. And then you will see when everything is executed, you will see what happened on each migration for each space. So you can see all the migrations in the migration tab, as shown right here. And you can click on one of the migrations to see the report. The report of the migration is very descriptive. You can see which pages were imported, what macros existed on those pages, and how they are supported by XWiki. So we have supported macros and unsupported macros. Then you can see if there is any critical error on the pages that you have imported, and if there are missing references for the pages that you have imported. And then finally, you can see if there are macros that have an equivalent, so that are supported, but have a parameter that is not perfectly matched to XWiki. So you can see all of this and, of course, make a decision on what to do with that content. You can either replace in bulk, you can modify manually some pages, you can create a bridge macro. You have multiple options to handle these cases. So you can see all this. You can see all of this information in the report page. And finally, about the macros, you will also have kind of a summary of all the macros that were imported in the dedicated imported tab. And the last step of any migration can be post-migration fixes, especially if you have imported spaces that had links between them, but you imported them at different steps. You may need to run a script to fix missing references, missing links between Confluence, between pages that were coming from Confluence. In the end, however, usually there are no issues with the links between pages. After you have migrated all the spaces and all the references exist, you will have all those links between pages fully functional. So this is a quick walkthrough about XWiki and the Confluence migration tool. Now, about the methodology, if you want to migrate from Confluence to XWiki, you usually have two routes. You can either go the simple way if you have a small instance and you want to migrate on your own. You can look a bit at the context of your organization. You can decide what macros you want to keep, if you want to set up an authentication system or not, and you can decide upon the timeline. And then you can install the Confluence Migration Toolkit to execute the migration on your own. Alternatively, if you have a complex migration, as a reference, for example, so far we have executed migrations of over 2 terabytes. So if in 2023, the biggest migration that we executed was about 400 gigabytes, in last year we started executing migrations of 2 terabytes and more. So for those ones and even hundreds of gigabytes of data, you would probably need a consulting service from XWiki SIS. And if you go on this route, we will usually have an analysis mission where an architect would collaborate with you to define the exact migration scope and the timeline and what is acceptable for each macro and plugin. Then there is the migration delivery, of course, and in the migration delivery, there's usually a QA step, one performed by XWiki SIS and a QA step performed by the client to make sure that everything is in order. And finally, there is the production delivery. But of course, we're not here to talk only about the migration from Confluence to XWiki, but also the integration between XWiki and OpenProject. And on this topic, Robin already presented their plans to integrate with XWiki from OpenProject, and we're happy to present our integration between XWiki and the OpenProject. So let me just switch the screen sharing. Okay, so between XWiki and OpenProject, there is already an integration. It was just launched today, actually. So if you'd like to try this out, it will be mentioned at the end. The way in which this integration works is that you can install the integration, of course, from the extension manager, and then in the administration section, you will be able to connect your XWiki instance to the OpenProject instance. For example, in this case, this XWiki instance is connected to this OpenProject dev instance. After this connection is done, the users that have access on both XWiki and OpenProject will be authorized to see the tickets displayed in XWiki from OpenProject, of course, based on the permissions that they have set in OpenProject. And let's see exactly what I mean by that. So the integration that we have nowadays is a macro that fetches the work packages from OpenProject, and you can handle the filter and the display. So here is the editor of the macro. I can select the instance that I'm trying to get the data from. So this is the demo connection that I just showed. And then when I want to show work packages into XWiki, I can filter them based on multiple things. I can either get an existing query from OpenProject, as we have right here. So here I just made some filters on OpenProject and pasted the URL from that filter into XWiki. You can also use filters that you have already saved and maybe are used to use consistently. You can modify the columns that are displayed in the table right here. You can add a description, of course. You can set a limit, and you can use multiple display options. So the one that we have right here is the live data display, which allows you to sort and filter the work packages that are fetched by the integration. And you can, of course, get to the click on the links and get to the ticket on the OpenProject side. Or you can choose the card display, which is the example that we have right here. So you can see that I have the view as cards. I also sorted the entries based on the created at date. And here, I did not take a URL from OpenProject, but I created a filter strictly on the XWiki side. So what I did here was that I said, okay, get me all the work packages from this OpenProject instance that are in project Scrum project. And I can add other constraints. I can add other filters. For example, let's say that I want the tickets that are authored by OpenProject admin. And in this way, it will restrict the cards to only the ones that match this filter. So again, we can choose to list the tickets either in live table or cards. And finally, we can also, if we want to really highlight a certain work package, we can choose the single item display and also either point to and also point to the work package that we want to display. All right, and this is how it looks like in view mode. So again, in this way, right now you can see in XWiki tickets from OpenProject, and now I invite Robin to tell us more about the partnership and the plans for the future.
Thank you very much, Stefana. And we saw how XWiki and OpenProject can be used and also as it can be used together. Let me talk a little bit about our partnership. So last year, we established a commercial partnership between both XWiki and OpenProject. And as part of that, we are working together, for example, with TOSIT, the open source I Trust, a nonprofit association with a mission to promote open source software, which is made up of large French corporations in order to build on top the already existing integrations between XWiki and OpenProject and strengthen them further as an alternative to Atlassian. And apart from that, we have a number of shared clients that are both using XWiki and OpenProject and are working together on proof of concept with large corporate organizations for XWiki and OpenProject as an Atlassian alternative. And one example of XWiki and OpenProject and also Nextcloud being used together is OpenDesk. OpenDesk was officially launched last year by the Center for Digital Sovereignty, ZENDIS, which is part of the German government. And OpenDesk integrates leading open source components into one workplace to provide an alternative to proprietary solutions like Microsoft Office or Atlassian. And OpenDesk selected as part of that XWiki for knowledge management, OpenProject for project management, and Nextcloud for document management and collaboration. And it's very strongly focused on the public sector, built for high security and compliance-heavy environments, and actively being used, for instance, by the Robert Koch Institute and the BWI, German Federal IT provider, as well as further European institutions. And maybe you have seen it in the news. The International Criminal Court recently ditched Microsoft Office in favor of OpenDesk. So that's one example of how XWiki, OpenProject, and also Nextcloud are being used together on a large scale. And as a brief summary, an overview of the capabilities of XWiki and OpenProject as compared to Confluence and Jira. So on the Atlassian side, Confluence and Jira are of course proprietary and cloud first. It's necessary to move away if you want to stay on-prem. On the side of XWiki and OpenProject, we are 100% open source and self-hostable. You can run XWiki and OpenProject on-prem, whereas on the Confluence and Jira side, you're of course subjected to vendor login. On the XWiki and OpenProject side, you have full data portability. And whereas we saw it initially, Atlassian massively ramped up prices in the past with expensive scaling, XWiki and OpenProject offer transparent, competitive pricing with same prices for cloud and on-prem. And whereas Confluence and Jira are proprietary and limited in that regard, XWiki and OpenProject also integrate with other open source solutions such as Nextcloud. And therefore, in conclusion, the Atlassian Data Center is dead. We learned in the beginning, in March 2029, the end of life will be reached. And while 3 years in the future, 2029, may sound like it's far away, 3 years in enterprise time is about the same as next Tuesday in real life. So therefore, the end of the Atlassian Data Center is actually not a future problem, but it's a preparation problem, and the preparation needs to start right now in order to make sure that the migration can be planned properly and the transition away to an alternative solution is provided. And therefore, we invite you to get in touch with us for a migration assessment and, of course, with any questions that you may have. And thank you again for asking so many questions in the chat. Our colleagues were so kind to aggregate them. And let me actually start with a couple of questions that came up regarding OpenProject. So the first question was if OpenProject offers an API like Jira does to manage tickets, for example. And yes, we offer a REST API that supports many actions in OpenProject. And in fact, any action you can take in OpenProject relating to tickets or work packages, as we call them, is also supported via API. Then there was a question that came up regarding the possibility to connect OpenProject to GitLab. And that is supported, so you can use a connection to GitLab to, for example, connect a merge request on the GitLab side to a specific epic or feature on the OpenProject side. And using that integration, you will automatically see any update that's happening on the merge request side reflected in the activity on the connected OpenProject work package, for example, a feature or an epic. And you will also be able to see issues that have been raised on the GitLab side displayed directly in OpenProject. So that is supported as well. And then there was another question coming up regarding agile capabilities in OpenProject, how, for example, sprints can be handled. It's a very good point. This is also one of the future focus topics that we want to focus on more strongly, but we already support capabilities to manage sprints, for example, using the backlogs or Scrum module in OpenProject, and we also support Kanban, and more is on the roadmap. There's also a question coming up regarding the database that's supported with the on-prem OpenProject installation. So we support PostgreSQL as database. And then I saw several questions coming up regarding service management in OpenProject. And so in terms of service management in OpenProject, it is possible to create separate tickets, for example, or incident tickets directly within OpenProject. We can also process incoming emails that can be sent to OpenProject, which are then automatically turned into, for example, a task or a ticket. And this is also a topic on our focus roadmap. So therefore, there will be additional capabilities provided in the future as well. And I think there were also a number of questions on the XWiki side coming up. So over to you, Stefana.
Thank you so much, Robin. Indeed, we're very happy to see many questions for both products. As Robin did, I will try to be mindful of everyone's time and answer just a few of them. But rest assured, we will answer all the questions in the email that we'll send after the webinar. So the first question is for XWiki, how to install it and install XWiki extensions when the XWiki server / container has no access to the internet, being in an air-gapped system. Right, so indeed, this is quite a common use case. To install XWiki, we have a full documentation for how to install it in multiple environments on the xwiki.org website. I will make sure to include that in the resources. For extensions, the Pro extensions, the one that are commonly used to migrate, and the macros as well, are usually sent over by a contact at XWiki. So there is a zip file that we need to package for you, and depending a bit on your version, and we will send it over to you, and you will be able to use XWiki fully offline. So if it's XWiki or non-Pro extensions, you will be able to download everything that you need from xwiki.org. If it's Pro extensions, please contact us and we will share the zip file with you so that you can install the Pro extensions as well. Second question is, will there be an extension for XWiki which allows to select some text, such as a heading, and create an open project issue out of it? This is very handy in Confluence and Jira. Yes, that's a great question, and I'm happy to say that indeed this is part of our plans. We will continue working on the integration with OpenProject, and the option to highlight to create an open project work package is one of the top priority features in our roadmap for this integration. The third question is, will there be a user-based rights system management for the XWiki integration? So I'm not sure if this is about XWiki or the integration with OpenProject. Strictly about XWiki, we do have a very fine-grained rights management system. So everything that could be needed on this topic is already available in the core product. About the integration with OpenProject, the integration already respects the rights that the user has in OpenProject and XWiki. So for example, if I make a list of OpenProject work packages and user John Doe, which has access to both XWiki and OpenProject, does not have the right to see a certain work package from that list, he does not have that right in OpenProject, he will not see that work package in the XWiki list either. So right now, the integration is made considering rights set up on each platform. And in the same way, in the integration that the OpenProject team will do for XWiki and the medium to long-term plans with this integration, indeed, rights management will be always considered to make sure that we respect the rights set in each system, and that we can quickly manage the rights for the users that use both platforms at kind of a global level. So this is the state right now, and in the future, yes, this will continue to be a priority. The fourth question is collaborative work possible with multiple users simultaneously on one page? Yes, this is possible in XWiki right now. We have a great real-time system or real-time editor, which is default in XWiki. So right now, if you just click on edit on a page and someone else comes and edits the same page, they will automatically appear as a little bubble in their location, and you can edit in real time without any issues. And more than this, you can actually edit in real time attachments as well. So if you attach an Office file, Word or PowerPoint, you can also edit those in real time. The last question that I will answer right now is, I will happily ditch Atlassian and Confluence. Thank you. Great start. The main question here is, how is the status of Confluence Migrator license and all the stock macro are supported, like attachments and Glyphy? Yeah, so the most of the most commonly used macros in Confluence are fully supported. So this either means that there's an existing macro on the XWiki side that has the same functionalities, or that we created a bridge, or that we convert that macro at the import step into an XWiki native one. So the most, about 70 macros that are commonly used in Confluence are supported on the XWiki side. For the other macros, for example, if you use kind of a special plugin, or you have some custom macros created on the Confluence side, we can also find solutions for that. In the past, for other projects, we have either recreated plugins or recreated some extensions, or worked on some sort of custom handling for macros whenever it was needed. So again, most macros are automatically supported. For the ones that are not supported, we are able to find solutions depending on your needs. I will stop here with the Q&A, again, as we are almost at the end of the webinar. But again, we will respond to all the questions on email. And of course, the questions do not have to stop here. You can continue to contact us at either contact@xwiki.com or sales@openproject.com. Please feel free to reach out to us for any question. It doesn't have necessarily to be a sales question. It can be any question about our products and integrations. You can try out the integration directly from the extension store. You can search this QR code or search for the OpenProject integration on the XWiki side. And finally, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us for a joint migration assessment. Again, we already have shared clients, and we are very happy to see this much interest in migrating away from Atlassian. We have the products and tools to be able to do this, so we are more than happy to assist you in achieving this goal as well. Now, right at the end, if you'd like to again, if you'd like to contact us, please use those two contact addresses. And on the email in the following days, you will receive all the information and a feedback form about the webinar. We would highly appreciate if you could please fill in that feedback when you receive the email, or even right now. The feedback form has been posted by Lorena on the chat. It's a CRIPAD form, so if you have 2 minutes, please fill it in so that we know how to do better in the future. Thank you so much for your time. We hope this was informative, and we very much look forward to getting in touch in the future.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Stefana.